In my last episode, I showed you a knitting novel I've been reading, a German book by Regine Kölpin, Strandkorbküsse. It's about two teenager girls in the north of Germany who are knitting and even spinning and falling in love the first time. It was very sweet and I really liked it, and I think I will show you other knitting novels or novels with a knitting content as well in the future. But today I'd really like to talk about the books I read in general. So thanks for joining. Now I would talk about the books I've read this year and what I plan to read next. So, and if this is not interesting for you, just stop or fast forward, because I will add a couple of pics and videos of my dog and myself walking around. Okay, so I think lots of people are on the Bridgerton wagon and we're watching that. Maybe lots of you have read the series already or started when the series came out. I was happy to continue in January, and I've read the fourth book. I've had read the first and the second book in the series, and I skipped the third about Benedict because the synopsis was not so really to my liking at the beginning of the year. I wasn't into this Cinderella kind of thing mood and omitted the third book and headed on over to the fourth about which is called Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, about Penelope. And I thought it a bit sad that the series revealed that she is Lady Whistledown, because when you read the fourth book, it's like you're wondering if it's really her, and well, you have suspicions in the other books throughout, and then in the fourth book it's like, no, it can't be. It must be someone else. There is a trick somewhere. And it was a really fun book. I liked it. And let's see, I have not yet bought any of the others, but I plan to read the whole series this year. But I was in kind of a Regency mood and dug through my wish list on Amazon and found a book I wanted to read for quite a while and bought it. It's The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow, and it's about Mary. So I'm a huge Jane Austen fan, and I've read all of her books apart from Sanditon. I started Sanditon but haven't finished it, and I also read tons and tons of sequels. So there is a huge fandom out there and a lot of fanfic and a lot really, really great sequel genre about all the Jane Austen books. So if you love that, you just have to start Googling. There are really a lot of really good authors I like. Oh, just a moment before I continue. So when I was at university, I also took a couple of English literature classes, though that was not at all part of my curriculum. But I joined those classes together with a friend who actually studied it. And I found in our university's library, I don't know, tons of sequels, and it really surprised me. So I've read them all. And some series I bought afterwards because I really loved them. What we later also read somewhere, was that in university? Where did we read that? I can't remember. I really can't remember. But you probably know it. So P.D. James wrote a sequel to Pride and Prejudice, and it's called Death Comes to Pemberley, which was also made into a movie by the BBC. So I like the story, and the movie is okay, but I like the book better. And I also, my favorite variation is actually a trilogy by Pamela Aden. So let me see. I have to check in which order this is. So Pamela Aden wrote a trilogy and showed Pride and Prejudice all from the view of Mr. Darcy. And this is really my favorite trilogy and my favorite, well, Jane Austenish story. So it starts with an assembly such as this, goes forth with duty and desire, yes, and then the last is these three remain. So I think it's called the Darcy Gentleman Trilogy or something like that. I love this. So this was really amazing. And I noted down which sequels or variations I all read. I forgot the website, but there is some kind of Jane Austen fanfic societies thing. I don't know. I don't remember. Where those amazing people are collecting all variations and sequels and prequels to all kinds of Jane Austen books. And this was something like a reading order list for me, and I worked my way through that. So I've read a lot of them, also on Kindle. So many are also in Kindle Unlimited, which I subscribe to. So I've read everything I could get my hands on. What I also liked is by Helen Halstead. This is Mr. Darcy Presents His Bride. Yeah, Pride. With fit as well. So this is also a really good book. I can recommend this. And really fun and entertaining is Phyllis Furley's The Darcys, Scenes from a Married Life. I like that as well. And then there is Jennifer Becton's Charlotte Collins, because who doesn't want to know what happens with Charlotte? And this is so great. This is really great. If you get your hands on this, you have to read this. If you love Jane Austen, if Pride and Prejudice is your favorite, then get your hands on Charlotte. That sounded weird. And then, for the anti-hero, there's Jane O'Day's Lydia Bennet story. This was really good too. Really, really good. Yeah. So you start not to despise her. Childish and ignorant and spoiled ways. Yeah. Yeah, well, so I decided to buy the other Bennet sister story by Janice Hadlow on my Kindle, and I think it was just 99 cents. So I thought, yeah, I just buy it there and have it immediately. But I haven't started it yet because I haven't had so much time to read the past few weeks. And while I was looking at that author's books list, I saw that she has other books out there totally in my area of interest. So I really love everything about the Georgian era and devour everything about that period, be it about distinctive persons or just social history or whatever. So I have a whole shelf or two just with books about that time period. And I saw that Janice Hadlow also has a really good book about George III and his family out, which was coincidentally on my, paperback wish list on Amazon. And I've read this, I've read the synopsis again and thought, yeah, this is really my kind of thing and I will buy this now. And I want to read it. So it's The Strangest Family, where she is talking about how George and Charlotte set out to educate their children in a liberal and how to say that, a totally different way compared to as it was before, especially how George III and his predecessors were growing up. So I'm just reading that. George III came to the throne in 1760 as a man with a mission. He wanted to be a new king, a new kind of king, one whose power was rooted in the respect and approval of his people. And he was determined to revolutionize his private life too, breaking with the extraordinarily dysfunctional home lives of his Hanoverian predecessors. So if you are interested, sorry, somewhere my phone is beeping. Okay. You know that since the Hanoverians came to the British throne, probably before that as well, but they were all kind of stiff, self-centered, cold-hearted. And George met or married the right kind of woman for this endeavor to have a completely different family. So for a long time it seemed as if, against all the odds, his great family project was succeeding. Together with his wife, Queen Charlotte, he raised his 15 children in a climate of loving affection. But as they grew older and their wishes and desires developed away from those of their parents, it became harder to maintain the illusion of domestic harmony. The Strangest Family is a tour de force, an epic, sprawling royal family drama filled with intensely realized characters who leap off the page as we are led deep inside the private lives of the Hanoverians. So, I really want to read this book as soon as possible. Oh, it's already a bit damaged. Not really nice, Amazon. And I know a lot about the single characters in that family already, and I think especially British viewers you will know as well, and probably immediately just line this up with what we know about the Prince Regent. So yeah, that didn't work out so well. And I'm really curious about how Miss Hadlow went to write about this family. So I'm really looking forward to it. And then I clicked on the author page on Amazon and saw that she had another book centered around the royal family. And the synopsis was different. Everything was described differently. And I thought, well, why not? And I bought The Royal Experiment, which was supposed to be the first of her books. It's a really nice hardcover, by the way. And so really, really nice. And I thought, well, good. I'm just putting them on my Goodreads page. That was after I clicked the buy or the purchase button. And I thought it weird that Goodreads didn't list them separately. I said, okay, well, who knows? And then they arrived and I thought, wow, awesome! Until I opened them and saw that they're completely the same book. And yeah, I will give one away. And as the soft cover is a bit damaged, as you see, and also here it's not so nice, I will give away the hardcover of the first book by Janice Hadlow, A Royal Experiment, which is the same book as The Strangest Family, and it's really nice with all the portraits of the whole family. And I'm really looking forward to see also how the mental state of the king is developing due to how his family, well, develops. So really, really nice pictures in it. So the picture part is the same as in the paperback, and here they're of course a bit bigger, and the quality is really great. So yeah, also page is really great. So I will give this away. If you're into that part of history, British Georgian history, then just message me and you will get this. Yeah. And if no one is contacting me, I will just scan it together with a bunch of other books. I will give over to resales or rebuys or whatever they're called, and make a bit more space in my shelf. Book the Wild Waters. She's a booktuber. You can find her on YouTube as Books of the Wild Waters. We did a buddy read in January, and we are filming what we thought about the book, and it will be a Jane Austen book as well. So it will be on her channel way earlier than on mine. But yeah, so we plan on a couple of buddy reads actually, and I think in March we will both read Matt Haig's The Midnight Library. So this will pop up in this podcast at some point as well.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Eve. This is Books of the Wild Waters, and today I'm joined by my friend Claudia of Knits for the Soul.
Hello.
And we will be talking about our buddy read in February, and that is Persuasion by Jane Austen. We have been reading this book because Claudia is a big fan of Jane Austen, and I only had read Pride and Prejudice years ago, and I thought, okay, maybe it's time now to read something else of her. And I got this beautiful edition, the children edition of Persuasion, and I decided this is the book I would like to start with my journey, through the Jane Austen books. So what is Persuasion about? It is about Anne Elliot, who is one of the daughters of a very wasteful baronet, so Walter Elliot. And because of his financial situation, he needs to rent his house and go to Bath instead and have a jolly good time there. And what we have, the situation is that he is renting the house to a family who is actually kind of acquainted with Anne. She just doesn't remember in a way. This is a second chance story because Anne was wooed years before by Captain Frederick Wentworth, who is the brother-in-law of the soon-to-be tenants of the house of the baronet. And through circumstances unfolding, Anne and Captain Wentworth will be acquainted again. And the question is here, of course, will there be soon a happy end or not?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's the second time I've read Persuasion. The first time is maybe 8 years ago. I can't really remember. And some paragraphs I could recall word for word, actually, when I got back to them, and other parts were like, that really happened, okay. So yeah. And again, I also missed a couple of things that, I don't know, fell off the page, sort of. And it was, well, talking about it just, yeah, made them clear again. So yeah, this episode is also filled with spoilers. So if you haven't read Persuasion yet, you might want to do that before keep watching this movie or this episode. Yeah.
Exactly. We will be going into that here. And so the best thing is not to watch it if you really don't know Persuasion. Yeah, let's dive into the book and actually what it makes it so special in comparison to the other books that Jane Austen has been writing. And so we have here Anne as a heroine, which is not really a heroine compared to the other ones. And because I only read Pride and Prejudice, so I know, of course, Elizabeth Bennet, and I know all of the Bennet sisters and all of their silly and great things that they were doing. I think that Claudia can enlighten us a bit more about the heroines of Jane Austen and why Anne, who is quite of grey mouse, if you want to, why Anne is special in this way.
Yeah, well, Anne can't really be compared to, let's say, Elizabeth Bennet or even Emma, for example. Maybe she is, in her way of thinking, in her sensible ways, maybe a bit related to Eleanor Dashwood or Fanny Price. Yeah, but she still lacks some kind of vitality, some kind of an open, outgoing nature. She's very reserved and takes herself back and her wishes and desires and hopes. So that makes her probably a very relatable character to women at that time. And also as some kind of ideal of a woman who is conscious of her role in life as a woman and also in society. Yeah.
We think that actually this also has something to do that Persuasion is some kind of a late work of Jane Austen. It was posthumously published actually after her death, and probably so one of the books that she wrote in a later stage of her life And so we can see when we compare it to all of the other books that she has been writing, this is actually some kind of a drama. It's a tragedy. It's not really a comedy, a kind of a comedy of manners, which we actually know Jane Austen has been very famous for. And we can also see that Anne as a person who is just for as you, if you have read the book, you know that she is very quiet. She is relatively pushed around all the time to help, either help or care for family members. And she always has to listen to her father, to the older aristocratic lady Russell that has a lot of influence with the family and in the area as well. And she doesn't really seem to have her own will because nobody ever asked her either. So what we just found out in through a book that Claudia was reading, that she also was the only one who actually has education. The heroines of Jane Austen usually are either educated at home or not at all. So in this case, Anne had been sent away for 3 years to be educated at a school, actually. So she comes back, and of course then is better educated than her family, and also like her sisters, who have a different stage of life now, because her younger sister is married to a man that she actually refused, and her older sister is the more important older sister that is presented in society, and of course her father wants to marry her to someone. So nobody really cares about Anne in this way. Sorry?
Or not marry her, to keep Elizabeth as a lifelong companion. And she's 29, I think, and though she's described as the most beautiful, still at that age, it's not likely that she's going to marry anyone. Maybe some pitiful Dalrymple relative, but I think she will just become another Sir Walter.
Oh, she already is. In the book, you can see that she is not very different from her father in her wastefulness, and also not about how she thinks about society herself and the importance of herself. So I guess that's already a good sign to see what her future might be bringing. But actually nobody is interested in Anne, and we actually get the story about the, so to say, in their opinion, very boring sister of the family. And in our situation, because we know a bit about Jane Austen, we see that Jane and Anne have a lot of things in common, and probably also Jane Austen has been writing about this topic because it's something that she had to deal with in her life as well. We have here that Anne has refused Captain Wentworth because she was persuaded out of the situation when she was very young. And in Jane Austen's life, she had a couple of proposals as well that she was refusing, to stay independent in a way, as independent as she could be at that time, be a writer, be a woman with her own life, and not a mother that has to sacrifice herself for the family and for her husband, which is then a very feminist approach, actually, also the kind of life that she has been living at that time. And so we see that probably Jane and Anne have loads of things in common here.
But I don't think that Anne would have preferred to stay single to follow her own career. So she was practically forced not to marry. So the question is, could she have just eloped with Wentworth when she was 19? But that was out of the question, because it's improbable that she had a dowry because of Sir Walter being such a wasteful character. And well, she was 19 and she still needed parental consent to marry. And so it was in a way sensible to not marry at that point. But I think we come back later to that, how this could be dealt with differently. What I was seeing a lot in Anne is that in all those years, in all her life, up until the point that the book ends and she gets her Frederick Wentworth, is that she was happy but twice in her life. So that was before her mother died, and then the short courtship she had with Wentworth in her youth. So, and I think it is a horrible thing that even the closest person to her, which is Lady Russell, does not acknowledge or even notice that Anne has been unhappy all those years, and therefore this is also reflecting in how she's living her life and how she's then perceived by others. But they don't dig deeper why that might be, why she is that way.
Yeah, I think the important thing here is that Jane Austen showed the regret that she was feeling the whole time, although she knew it was probably sensible not to marry him when she was 19. She still could look back and see how many years have, gone past by now. So 8 years, and she never had a feeling like that again. Someone who appreciated her, someone who wanted her the way she was, not like the super exciting, super beautiful woman, but someone who cares for other people, who is thinking about what kind of decisions to make very clearly. And as we can see in the book as well, Captain Wentworth always, when he was talking about her, he always wanted to know what her opinion was, although he is the one that had more experience in the world, and he also had more power when as working as a naval officer, and he still believed that she knows very well how the world is working, although she is so to say secluded in her family and just in family business and in this in the countryside, not even like in the big city where she could encounter more things that happened to her. And I think that it was very important to see, although Jane Austen made her quite a very, let's say, not a real heroine, but a character who's an everyday character, if you want so. She showed us a woman that lots of people can relate to, and she's very realistic because she is not super beautiful. She is not extremely clever, but she is she has a lot of common sense, and she is still very intelligent. And we can see that she's sacrificing herself for everyone else. I thought that her sisters, and especially her younger sister, where she has to go when her father and her sister go to Bath already to check out the situation and society, when she is, so to say, still left behind. She actually wants to see her friend Lady Russell and go to her sister, who of course has a nervous breakdown again, and she's ill and needs someone to care for. So who is coming? Anne is coming. And her sister, I thought the whole family and her sister, the Musgroves, absolutely annoying. And how Anne actually can put up with the ignorance in this family and the annoying behavior of everyone in this family, especially the sisters, sisters-in-law for her sister.
Louisa and Henrietta.
Yeah, Henrietta and Louisa, exactly, who actually are the ones that give her the information that Captain Wentworth is coming to the area, because they, of course, want to make an impression and maybe hunt the poor naval officer. And That's exactly what's happening. Wentworth gets acquainted with them, and very soon everyone wants to be wooed by him, and he's in a situation that the gossip in the area is actually telling him, "Oh, you are wooing these people," and he's like, "Oops, I don't."
Yeah, but he tells his sister that he would be open for the taking for any girl from the age of 15 to 30. And I mean,
it's called English irony.
He's just coming back from war, so he obviously has needs. So
don't worry, this is Jane Austen, there is no smut.
Well, there is one reference about horse dung when they almost have this collision with the two carriages. So this is the only mention of excrements in any of the Jane Austen novels.
But still no sex.
You said that.
Yeah, I said that. I'm sorry, girls. I'm sorry, whoever is watching, knitters, book lovers, whatever. This is Jane Austen, and of course, it's about the situation and the love and everything else that is coming after that is left to your imagination. So
but there is a lot for the imagination if you think about William Elliot and Mrs. Clay. So you definitely everyone also back then knew what they were up to, and also possibly knew that, well, Mrs. Clay was then a fallen woman. Yeah.
Okay, just to recap.
I'm spoiling your plan for the podcast.
To recap for you, Mrs. Clay is living in the area of the baronetcy, and I think she lost her husband. She's still quite young and not too ugly, and tries to actually impress Anne's father. And you can imagine that she tries to become Mrs. Elliot. And although this is always just like, we get bits and pieces here that Jane Austen is always like giving us some hints about this. This is later in the story when we go back to Bath with Anne. We see that I think it's her cousin, Mr. Elliot. By the way, this is like, it was very confusing for me. Everyone is called Elliot here. And to check for me who is the cousin, Mr. Elliot, the one who will actually inherit the baronetcy, because as you know, women cannot inherit here. It's just like the next male relative, because Sir Walter has no sons. So her cousin, Anne's cousin, will inherit the baronetcy once he's dead. And so what actually would be the perfect situation is that the cousin might be interested in one of the sisters, marry them, and happy ever after, Elliot is still Elliot, and everyone can keep up the house and the title and whatever. And the situation is that Mr. Elliot, the cousin, will get acquainted with Anne just fleetly, but it happens when they
Can I interrupt you? Sorry, because I would like to interrupt you when you're talking about.
I'm sorry, I'm always talking this all the whole time. Of course, Claudia can always.
So I think it's really interesting that actually everyone would have thought, why is William Elliot not marrying, for example, is Elizabeth, because he's going to inherit anyway, and he would, save one of the daughters at least. And I think he was sensible enough to see, he was greedy too, but sensible to see that Sir Walter has already been wasteful with his money, and he was just anxious that there was nothing left when he would succeed to the baronetcy, because Sir Walter was quite young, he was fit, and he would probably live awfully long. So if he would have married Elizabeth, there wouldn't have been a lot of money for himself to spend in his for his person. So he married that rich woman so he could have had money right away. And now that is gone, so then there is what you would wanted to say, I guess, that there would be a possibility to say, okay, now it might be time to get myself into a safe haven and to challenge and marry one of those daughters.
And as we get the information there, that's what actually Claudia was alluding to before, is that once William Elliot realized there is an usurper coming to take away his inheritance, which is Mrs. Clay, who tries to actually flirt with
Sir Walter.
Sir Walter Elliot.
There could be a male heir.
He tries to actually undermine her in a way, so that she is not like marrying Sir Walter, and of course this would be the best situation to probably have an affair with her, because he then can also blackmail her in the future. I don't know whether it will happen, but he actually tried his best to make sure that he will inherit something there. So where comes this situation actually with Anne? Anne is reacquainted with Captain Wentworth, and through circumstances unfolding, they will end up at Lyme, at the sea, in let's say a happy weekend. Yeah. And unfortunately, the happy weekend will not be very happy, because we have some kind of accident with one of the very silly, sisters-in-law of Mary Musgrove, which is the sister of Anne. And because of this accident, one of the girls needs to stay in Lyme, and there's a lot of trouble. Everyone is, as you always know in Jane Austen and books at that time, there's a lot of carriages. Everyone is going everywhere. Everyone needs to help. Some people need to stay to nurse the fallen girl, and some people have to get the information to the most important people, which is the parents, etc. And although Captain Wentworth actually wants Anne to care for Louisa Musgrove, who is the unfortunate accident, because he knows her and he knows that she's very good in nursing, that she's very good as a caring person. She's not getting this job, so to say, because of her sister, and who is, as I already told you, absolutely annoying, and always needs to make sure that she's in the middle of all of the action, although she's absolutely not important at all. And that's why Anne is actually sent to the Musgrove's parents to tell them, oops, something happened.
That was an
and
yeah.
You will only
but you can also understand Mary. You can also understand Mary in a way. She is so unhappy in her marriage, and she takes this as an opportunity to stay away from her husband, who's always out doing sports, and of course her annoying children. Well, to her annoying. So this is a time for her to stay in Lyme, where actually there's more to do and more to see than in Upper Cross. So
this is true. It's not very helpful for Louisa Musgrove.
No,
it's important for Mary to be important and doing other stuff. It's not that we don't understand this, but we actually follow Anne, and we want Anne to have something that she actually wants to do. And again, she's pushed away to somewhere else, and we can see that it is we always see that it is against her will, but she always does it in the end. Yeah, she's never the one that's saying, no, now I will be doing this because it's the best thing to do. You go home, I stay here. She's always consenting. She's always in the end saying, okay, leave the trouble to them. I'm leaving. But that's the thing why she's never actually included in where the action is. So Anne is again pushed away, which means in the end she will then go to Bath, and there she sees Mr. Elliot again and her father and sister, who actually only talk about themselves as always. And we leave also Captain Wentworth, who was actually all, you know, embroidered in all of this gossip there, because people thought that he would be marrying one of these girls just because he was hanging around with them, probably because he actually wanted to hang around with Anne, which he couldn't do otherwise. So that's the situation. We know that Wentworth is he's, so to say, fleeing the situation as well. He's leaving Louisa to Mary and all of the people that care for her, and he's just meeting, I think, a brother or a friend or whatever in somewhere else, so that he's out of the picture actually. And we follow Anne to Bath and see what's going on there with Mr. Elliot, who is not as nice as she thought she would, because Jane Austen twist, of course. And of course, our big question is, will Captain Wentworth push away his pride and go to Bath to find out whether he might still be having a chance with Anne Elliot? Enter Claudia.
Yeah, that is also a really cool question. So you could ask how much the various lovers in the story know about their rivals. So it's not clear whether Wentworth knows that Charles Hayter, for example, has been a long-time suitor for Henrietta, and or whether Benwick is aware how much Frederick is temporarily contemplating marriage with Louisa. So Frederick almost certainly is unaware of William Elliot's moves on Anne at Bath. And so this is quite confusing for everyone then in the end. So they don't have social media where they can just swap out information really fast. So lots of stuff gets confused. But this is again some Jane Austen fun that is making the story interesting.
So to explain here, Mr. Hatter is or like whatever. He's actually connected to Henrietta Musgrove, who actually also wants to woo Captain Wentworth. And he's living in the countryside. I think he's like a parson, or what is he? Yeah. And of course, this is not like, you know, like he's not very rich, whatever. But if they love each other,
according to Mary, they are so below them. But Mary is also such an entitled person, like her father. So I think Henrietta is doing very well if she is considering Hayter.
And Mr. Benwick is someone they actually meet in Lyme, who was just bereft through the death of his wife, and he's mourning the whole time. He has a connection to Anne when he meets her. They talk about poetry, and they talk about, in general, they talk, which is very important because he has been quite silent since his wife died. That's what we get as an information, and that's why we also see that Anne can make, you know, this man who is mourning speak. And this is very important because that means that she's very sensitive, and she's listening to his problems, which again we have with no other female character there, because they are either talking about themselves, about who they want to marry. It's always about their dreams, their fantasies, whatever. But we cannot see that there is a realistic approach with men actually in this book. And here we have Anne, who actually listens to the whatever Mr. Benwick has to say, and makes him feel like approachable again as well. And that's something that Captain Wentworth is also realizing when they are in Lyme. And the thing is here,
especially because Anne is able to hold a conversation, and she is not just listening, but she is understanding, and she can reply on the same level as the well-read Mr. Benwick or Captain Benwick. So, and this is again something that Frederick can notice, so that there is no stupid girl out of the schoolroom talking about ribbons and dresses and hats and whatever and jumping off walls, but a very sensible, intelligent woman who can be a really great companion. So he sees that there is more to her than just being a woman.
And I'm quite sure that he actually already knew this 8 years before. It's just that he's realizing it now again.
With that, so he sees it's still that way, and she's still that very cool person I got to know back then, and maybe I should leave my pride behind.
And we are going back to Bath, and Mr. Wentworth is coming, and of course we want them to reunite. There's a lot of things happening still in Bath then, a lot of revelations, a lot of twists and turns that Jane Austen, of course, put into the story with the cousin and with all of the high society that's not very high society in Bath. And Captain Wentworth hates this and actually hates it as well, but she's dragged into it as always. And we in the end, spoiler here, of course, this is Jane Austen, we in the end get our second chance, and that was very important for me. We always had the notion in the whole book that Anne is the one that is responsible. Anne is the one that is responsible for the hardship that they had to go through. Of course, we know, we already talked about this, that she probably could not have sat otherwise as it was when she was 19, but still Wentworth wanted her and she wanted him as well, and she said no, and she had regretted it, and now she got her second chance in Bath, and you have to read it for yourself, so you will see what's happening there. In the end, it's still I think still not a happy end as we have it, for example, in Pride and Prejudice, that you have like Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy, and then they realize they loved each other always from the beginning. They just didn't realize it then, although they realized it.
It's the same with Emma.
And here we have, as I think, that's why I really like this book actually, everything is completely realistic. Everything is like they get their second chance, but we know, because this is a tragedy and a drama, we don't know what's happening after that. Probably not the big happiness, because we will have war again for England, and he is a naval officer. He has to go and fight Napoleon again. We know that Anne she's then the wife of a naval officer. And that means she doesn't know whether he will come back or whether will she be coming with him. All these things. It's not that we are staying in Bath or in Kellynch and everything is the happy ending of the story. It's actually just
no settled domestic life. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who knows what will happen? Yeah, but so he could very well just die in action, but. Well, compared to before, if she had married him 8 years before, and if he would have died, she would have been a very poor widow. But I mean, now she would inherit his £25,000. So
not too bad.
She could at least be a genteel widow with means. But of course, everyone reading Jane Austen is hoping for some married bliss for all hero and heroine.
I want to stress here that after we read the book, we also watched a movie together, one of the movie versions, adaptations of this. Claudia already knows too. I only knew the one that we have been watching together, which was the BBC version from 2007. And here it's very important because we just told you how the book is actually ending, and if you have read the book, you know that. But in the ending in the film from 2007, they were actually going back to Kellynch, and he bought Kellynch, which makes no sense because it belongs to Walter Elliot. And there was like, we had like the notion, oh, that means that's where they will have their family or whatever. But actually, we know that he's a naval officer. He will go away again. So it's not like she will settle down at the estate of her parents where she was growing up and everything like that. It's actually completely different. Claudia can tell you how it was in the other film that I don't know.
Yeah, so in the 97 version with Kieran Hinds as Wentworth, we actually see in the closing scene that they are both on board of a ship. Well, Persuasion is, I think, the only Jane Austen book where she is not emphasizing on the end of the seat of the family. So we know that it is let out to the Crofts, as many people at that time did with their country seats, especially if you were short on money and had to be a little bit more economic about it. So all those officers that came back from the war in 1814, they wanted some nice place to relax and spend their prize money on. And we know that not only Wentworth, but all his colleagues, his other captains, they keep their commissions. They do not sell their commissions and settle down as gentlemen. So they are still in service, and that means they're just waiting to get a new command and go to war again. So it's probable that they would move to Plymouth and Portsmouth or somewhere along there where the Navy is stationed.
Bournemouth. At the
yeah. Oh yeah, we've been there, right? Yeah, exactly. So the ending of the BBC version of 2007 does not make sense in that way. I mean, it's of course some way of the producers to give that happy ending the viewers want or expect, that especially Anne would get back her beloved family home. And in the 97 version, it's closer to the book. So that she is together with her husband, but and she's happy about it. They're both happy about it, but it's the same as in the book, that you have some kind of feeling, some kind of dread regarding the future, because Napoleon will be back. Yeah,
he always came back.
Yeah, but once then he was good.
Yeah, but otherwise I can say that the 2007 version that we watched was still true, I think, to the characters. I did not like anyone in the movie, and this is good because I did not like anyone in the book as well. And except of I didn't even like Anne, but that's just because of her kind of character. It's good. Jane Austen made it very well. So it's just a frustrating read, so to say, because all the time you think you want her to do something, to take action, and not always being the one that's pushed away and actually accommodating other people's wishes or visions of what she should do or who she is. And
but that was the way of women at that time.
Exactly.
So but I did like the Crofts, actually. So I did like Mrs. Croft.
Yeah, the sister and the brother-in-law of Captain Wentworth. Yeah, it's just, but they only had like a bit to do with the story. It's not that they were not like center characters. So it's nice that we have for me, there were some kind of like elderly people, although they are not elderly. I'm 36, and if really the sister of Captain Wentworth is 38, as it says in the book,
this is elderly. Oh my
she,
god.
they looked a bit different in the film. They looked a bit
That's
older.
due to the weather-beaten ways of officers on the sea. So.
That could be because Mrs. Croft was actually going with her husband, who is the brother-in-law of Captain. No, who is the brother-in-law of Captain Wentworth. He's a naval officer as well, or was, and she was going on with him on his trips, so
to all the stations. And yes.
So we had that was something interesting as well, because then we saw the two versions of maybe naval wives. Yeah, you had the one the Crofts, and then you had what we imagine might be Anne as well. And so some kind of a future, Anne is here now, and the Crofts is where she maybe will be in the future. But I must say that at that time when I was watching the movie, I wasn't really thinking about that. I thought them as elderly people. I thought like, okay, this is the older sister of Captain Wentworth, but very much older. And
but actually not. Yeah, it's just
actually not.
I think it's 9 years. That's not a lot.
I mean, at that time, it's a lot. It's almost a decade. So yeah, Captain Wentworth probably wasn't planned as well.
Yeah, I mean, Anne with a 27, she has 3 years left on the marriage market before she's really on the shelf, like for good. Is considered very old compared to today. Yeah, which is weird, but yeah,
that's how it was. Yeah. So now we have like the pro and contra. What is good about the story and what is bad about the story? I always try, to get the bad out of the way. The only thing that really, really annoyed me was that sometimes it was really dragging. There were some parts very slow pacing. It's not that I think that Jane Austen should have like a pacing of a modern author, of course not. But some things were a bit like either repetitive or, it's like you had to go through. It was a bit of work to get to the meaningful parts of it. But that was the only criticism I had. What I liked about it was really that it was really, really realistic. It's absolutely mature. It's no one, although all of the characters, especially the women, are annoying and silly and whatever, they are still not like some of the annoying characters of Pride and Prejudice, for example. There is still some kind of, for me, there is a difference there. And the focus also is on a couple that I really want them to have a second chance, because you feel that circumstances prevented them from being together, and we know that they feel for each other, but they're both either too proud or not, because of the social milieu. They cannot actually get in contact with each other so easily again if they are not acquainted via circumstances unfolding as we had there. And I thought I hoped for them to find a way to each other, because this is how the world really is. We do sometimes make mistakes, and we do choices that make sense at the time when we make them, but later we regret. And I like that Jane Austen shows us a woman regretting her decision and getting a chance of making this right again. This is what I liked about the book. Claudia, anything to add here?
No, I think I agree that it is the most mature work of her. And well, she started writing it in 1815 and finished it about a year later. So it is, I think, the only book that is really relying on the current history she's been living in, the current events in history, yeah, and also on places the characters are traveling to. So you don't have this in the other books. So most of them are fictional, but in Persuasion, you really have some grip to the reality in which Jane Austen lived herself, and where she could also put her opinions about all of that to paper. Yeah, I really like that in the book. Yeah.
So in my rating, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The 1 star was just because of a bit of dragging. But I think this is a good book, and I really think we should hear more about it. When we talk about Jane Austen, we usually only talk about Pride and Prejudice and Emma, or Sense and Sensibility, and then the rest is a bit like, and especially these two. I think it's Persuasion and Northanger Abbey, who are both, which are both published posthumously. We don't hear that much about them. So I think it's worth to look into what Jane Austen was writing as a mature, as a grown woman, and not when she was younger and still had illusions to what could be happening in her life or in life in general, where she wrote the comedies that we know her for. Yeah, that is actually my conclusion for this. I was happy that I read it, and I am actually looking forward to the next buddy reads that we will be doing, because in the coming months there will be more that we will be doing, and I guess that we will be recording another video quite soon.
Yeah. So I already ordered it. I think it will be delivered tomorrow or the day after. So I'm really looking forward to it. And so let's see. Another friend of mine wants to join that buddy read. If she will appear in the video, I don't know. So I will ask her. But she's going to read it with us as well.
We will not tell you which book is coming to you soon in our next conversation, but I hope you enjoyed what we have been doing here today. I really liked it. It was the first time that I did this, and it's a bit more like, in university when you're speaking to real people, to books that you have been reading about, and so I hope you enjoyed this. Anything else to add?
Yeah, so I would like to recommend 2 books to you regarding Jane Austen.
Resources.
So, what?
Resources.
Yeah, sort of. So I've got tons of stuff like that, but I think these 2 are really fun reads. So the first is, so they're both by Deirdre LaFay. The first is Jane Austen, The Real World of the Novels. So I have a German edition here, but this is really great. So it leads you through the making of every book and the backgrounds and some inside stuff. It's really nice. You get maps and everything. And but I mean, the internet is a very resourceful tool. So you can get by Patrick Wilson like maps where all the novels take place. So this is really great. And if you want to take a deeper dive into the books, I can also recommend Deirdre LaFay's So You Think You Know Jane Austen. So this is really nice. We also used a couple of the questions in here to have a closer look on a couple of the characters. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to the next buddy read, and thank you for watching.
There you go. Thank you for watching from me as well, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, that's for it today. I hope you liked it. I hope you are all well and that you can enjoy the sunshine and have time to knit, to read, or whatever you would like to do. And we see each other next time. Thank you very much. Bye.